Kevin just said there were 0 discussions around the kids. 0. Hi, Ice Babies. It's Sunday over here, and I had a little time before I have this commitment, and I was watching the Kevin Franke interview on YouTube. So I'm gonna jump right in. What we're gonna do is watch the Kevin Franke interview together, because I was like, nope, I'm stopping it. I've got to watch this with my Ice Babies. Kevin Franke is the husband of Ruby Franke, the 8 passengers matriarch, who has been charged with, well, you know, if you're here, you know. Don't make me abbreviate it. Don't make me bleep it out. If you're not aware of the Franke case, this might not be the video for you now, but I would take a moment to go Google and just get a little bit caught up with the basics of the case. This interview took place on August 30th, 2023. This is the interview in which Kevin Franke goes to the police station thinking he's just gonna retrieve his children after, you know, what happened with Jody and Ruby and the little boy R, okay? So he shows up to the police station after getting a notification, and you'll hear about this in the interview. So he shows up thinking he's gonna get his children. He was wrong. I will be providing some commentary, and I've cleaned up the police audio as best as I could, okay? So here we go.
But, you know, I am going to repeat our rights before we start. We're just going to kind of ask you a few questions about your involvement, okay? So, first, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in the court of law, okay? You have the right to an attorney or to have him or her present while questioning. If you cannot afford to hire one will be hired to represent you. If you decide to answer questions, you can stop at any time. Okay? Do you understand your rights?
I do.
Okay. Do you wish to speak to me now?
Well, I want to pick up my kids.
How about this? We're going to ask you some questions, and if you don't want to answer them, you just say, hey, man, I'm not going to answer that.
Sure.
And we just say, yeah, I'm not going to talk. That's not beneficial to you, and we're done. There's no way, I don't know where. And sure. You understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, just for starters, what was your full name?
Kevin William Franke.
How to spell it?
KEVIN WILLIAM FRANKE.
And what's your date of birth? What's a good address for you?
I'm not comfortable giving my address right now.
Okay. But you do live in Springville?
I do.
How long have you lived in Springville for?
I moved there in 2007 with my family. So,
okay. And how many?
17 years.
So, and how many kids do you have, Kevin?
I have 6 kids.
And what are their names?
I can't remember. Some of them are teenagers, 2 adults.
So are they all living with you, or?
No, I haven't seen them for over a year.
Any of them?
No, none of them.
For a year?
Over a year.
Okay.
I've been in a separation.
From who?
From my wife and family.
What's your wife's name?
Ruby.
When was the last time you saw Ruby?
The last time I saw her was the 18th of this month. We met she requested me to sign over vehicles, or the titles to the vehicles, the vehicle that she drives. We're all going to.
When's the last time you physically saw?
The day that I moved out, July 24th, 2022.
24th of 2022.
Or July 25th. July 25th.
Kevin says it's been over a year since he's seen his children. He's been in a separation from his wife and kids. And the last time that he saw Ruby Franke was the month this interview was conducted. So August of 2023 was the last time Kevin Franke saw his wife Ruby. And he's telling the detective that in that last conversation where he saw his wife Ruby was requesting that he sign over the titles of the vehicles that were in his name. That's freaking fishy.
So it's my understanding that at least home here in Kent at Ivans. Have you been to that home?
No.
You've not been in that home?
No, I don't know. I don't know what anything that's been going on.
Like, this is good, man. Like, I would love to be able to help you out with this, and like, I see in the light of things, because I'm unaware of your involvement in what's really going on. So for you to say that you're unaware of the status of your kids kind of makes, I know that sounds kind of crummy to you, but it sounds kind of good to me. Like, who lives in that home with your, is it ex-wife? Is it currently a separated wife? Like, who lives in that home with your children?
To be honest, I don't know. I know that she's there with 4 of the children, and our 2 older children and freaked out.
They're not at your home in Springville.
And
I'm not trying to trip you up. I can see you're hesitant to talk to me. I understand.
Well, where I live, no,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it for over a year.
Okay. That's tough. I can only imagine how that feels when I got kids. And not seeing for that long, that would tear a little piece of my heart out.
Okay, this detective is clearly trying to evoke some sort of emotion from this guy, from Kevin. He's just sitting there with this vacant look on his face and speaking in monotone. The detective is, and I'm paraphrasing, but he's basically saying, dude, this has got to be tearing you up inside, not seeing your kids for so long.
Of age to drive. Does she drive?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't know nothing that's going on
So
in their lives or anything going.
How did you find out that you needed to come here to 55 North Main Street?
I received a message that I needed to come pick up my kids from the police department in Highlands.
and who was that message from?
I prefer not to say right now.
It would just help us a lot.
I'll try to figure out who reached out to you because it makes sense that would happen. I'm just not aware of anyone who did that from our department.
Right. And I'm not comfortable saying right now who reached out to me.
Okay.
Okay.
So you haven't seen any of your kids in over a year, you said.
That's correct.
And then what was the last time you saw her? How old is she now?
15.
She's 16. Okay. And then when all the kids left, Ruby took all of them?
Oh, yeah, she stayed in the house and I moved out.
Okay. And did you ever try to reach out to the kids, drop by the home, or was
I
there...
honored the no separation boundary that we agreed to.
So what
There
was
no
your separation?
contact boundary.
Did you have a no contact order in place?
No, this was between my wife.
So what did Ruby ask of you when you separated?
But did she ask it?
Did she ask you not to contact the kids?
Ruby invited me to leave the home
Mm-hmm.
while I thought about the choices that I have made in my life and the way that I treated her.
Okay.
And so I left.
And how long had you and Ruby been married before?
We were married in 2000.
So about 22 years?
When we separated, we were going on 22 years. Yes.
Okay.
Ruby invited me to leave the home. Like, You're cordially invited to get the heck out of here. Now, here's a link to my freedom registry. The way he's saying this is just very, I'm leaning so much towards like almost a Stockholm syndrome, super brainwashed. Like she is Mecca for him. He can't say anything distasteful or anything to dishonor her. Very strange. He's saying during this separation, and they were married for 22 years pre-separation, but he's saying the separation was for him to consider his choices and the way that he's treated his wife, Ruby.
And during your marriage, how was disciplining your kids? How would you discipline your kids?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, that's fine.
The female detective jumps in and asks Kevin, so how did you and Ruby parent the kids when you guys were living together and co-parenting? And he just straight out refuses to answer the question. He doesn't even pull out a generic, we discipline like every normal couple, or we try to lead them, on the right path. No. There's none of that. Methinks he's mum because their discipline was anything but normal.
Have you been since separated or since they lived here in the city of Ivans? Have you communicated with your wife regarding like discipline with your kids or their care or their physical well-being?
Yeah.
So is she doing this on her own and just telling you how your kids are?
She's not telling me anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Who's this female Jody that your wife looks at? Do you know a female named Jody?
She is a therapist and a life coach, I know. And
do you respect her?
Do I respect her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she's a very honest, truthful person, yes.
Okay.
The male detective is asking Kevin about this Jody woman. Who is this Jody person? Do you know her? What do you think of her? And Kevin says she's a therapist and a life coach, and he adds that he believes she's a very honest and truthful person, that Jody.
You place value on Jody?
I don't know what that means.
Do you value what she says and how she treats? Is your wife a client of hers? Is your wife a partner of hers? Is your wife a roommate with her? If your kids are living in her house is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not aware of that.
The male detective is trying to ascertain Kevin's involvement here. He's asking Kevin if he places value on Jody Hildebrand and also if he knows who Jody is to his wife. Kevin is still looking at the detectives like they are from a completely different planet. And the male detective says, well, listen, your kids are living at this Jody person's house. That's why I'm asking you these questions. And to that, Kevin just replies, well, I wasn't aware of that. Sorry, guys, I can kind of see the screen bouncing off my glasses, but, what can I do? Thank you for hanging in there.
But I know that they've been in business for the last year filming.
Who's they?
Ruby and Jody. They've filmed podcasts, and so every week a podcast goes up and I listen to it.
What's the name of it?
Connections with an X.
Like CON.
CONNEXIONS. Yeah.
And then you support them in that role and doing that and have them.
Do I support them in the business?
Yeah, like do you support them and think that what they're doing is a good thing, or?
Yeah, I support their business efforts. I think it's a good thing.
Are you involved with their business efforts, or?
No.
So just Remy and Jody. No
Kevin in business?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Kevin is saying Ruby and Jody have been filming a podcast together called Connections with an X, and he admits he's been tuning in to listen to this podcast. Kevin says he supports Ruby and Jody's business efforts, and that he is in no way involved in that lane. He's not involved in the podcast or anything in their business at this time.
And were you involved in the 8 passengers account with your family?
Yes. I was in the videos, and that's what you mean.
I briefly learned about this 2 hours ago.
So, did Ruby more so do the videos for the family?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how long did you guys do that for?
She started the channel in 2015. And as far as I'm aware, from the time I left, the last video she uploaded was towards the end of 2021.
Okay.
And I'm not aware of anything she's done since our separation.
So the detectives are asking Kevin a little bit about the 8 Passengers YouTube channel, and Kevin says, yes, he was a part of that, which they started in 2015, and he was involved with the family vlogging until he left the family home in 2021.
I don't visit 8 Passengers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter of life, it's gone.
It's a past chapter, yeah.
So how do you and Ruby communicate? Just through text, phone call?
Or text, and if there's anything considered an emergency, we agree to communicate through a phone call.
Okay. And do you know her phone number off the top of your head?
The top of my head, but no.
Okay. No worries. So, how often would you guys communicate while she was down here?
Well, I don't know how often or long she was down here. We've communicated maybe 4 times in 2023 since January.
So are you aware of how she disciplines the kids or how she handles
No.
the kids with behavioral issues or anything like that?
Yeah.
So you're unaware of how she does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin says they communicated maybe 4 times during the year of 2023, and he's completely unaware of how Ruby disciplines the kids while he's been away.
Are you aware of the physical condition of your children?
No. No. I've chosen to trust my wife with the children.
The detective asks Kevin, are you aware of the condition that your children are in? And he's like, no, I trust my wife. There has been no reason really for me to ask about their condition or how they are. There's a lot, I feel like I'm a Kevin right now. I'm just completely vacant, staring off at an alien right now because this is super, super bizarre.
That was part of the agreement of our separation.
Is that you allow her to physically provide for the needs of the child and just removed from that? I mean, you pay support. I know this is personal questions, but
Well, yes, my job is to financially provide for them.
I'm just trying to figure out how much of a role do you play in the caretaking of specifically of those 2 kids?
I pay the bills.
Okay.
With my job, I provide money, goes into a shared bank account, and that's my only involvement.
Okay.
So Kevin is saying the wife, Ruby, does the discipline and she does the everyday caretaking, and he pays the bills. Kevin is the money and she takes care of the kids, okay?
There's a whole bunch of things I want to talk to you about, but I still can't get over the fact that someone notified you to come here to pick up your kids. My guess is, was that Jody?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay.
All I'll say is,
Well,
someone
you said you trusted her. You said that you think she's honest. I asked you if you placed that one, that you obviously.
she is an honest I know her to be an honest and a trustworthy individual. And so, yeah, I trust her. And I received a communication that and so I left immediately from my job and drove down here. That's all I know. I've come up, picked up my kids, and to take them home with me.
This is kind of odd when the detective asks him who called him and told him to go to the police station. Remember, Kevin showed up to the police station to get his kids and bring them to his home, right? Not Ruby's home, not bring them back to the family, but he went there to pick them up. So the detective asks him, who alerted you that you should come to the station and get the kids? And Kevin refuses to answer that. It sounds like the detective thinks it was Jody Hildebrandt who notified Kevin that the children were with police or in the custody of the police.
Yeah, is there custodial paperwork that says that you're like a... There's no custodial paperwork denying your rights, correct?
There's no custodial paperwork at all.
Here is. So the kids are yours.
They are mine.
Okay.
Yes. This wasn't just a verbal agreement between my wife and what we said last year.
Detective here is confirming that this separation and throughout Kevin's absence from his family's life, there wasn't any official paperwork or court orders that were drawn up and enforced. I think it's still like blowing this detective's mind. It's the male detective, that Kevin is so laissez-faire about the whole thing. Like he's kind of, the detective is probing for a reason a father would stay away from his children for a year. So he's offering up some options to Kevin, like, is it a restraining order? Is it a custody thing? Are you in a custody battle? But Kevin is maintaining it's just a verbal agreement between himself and his wife, Ruby Franke.
What questions do you have?
Well, I want to know what's going on and why I was asked to come down and pick up my two kids.
Well,
And a lot of that kind of hinges on who asked you. Because if we had been the one, like, I'm not going to say you fit, but I'm confident a cop didn't call you because we wouldn't have wanted you down here at this point in our investigation. So, having said that, I think it's time we be honest with you, right?
Sure. No, and I didn't lie. Someone contacted me, but I don't want...
You said someone from your office, but okay.
Well, I don't recall saying something from your office.
Our office, I
Yeah.
believe that's
someone, yeah. So we don't know who called you. So if we knew who called you, then we could help you.
It made more sense.
But
Well, I don't know the legal ramifications of implicating individuals. It's just got a lawyer here to answer.
Yeah, they're still going back and forth on who contacted Kevin and told him to go to the police station. But Kevin is zip the lip. And he says he doesn't know the legal ramifications of exposing the person who told him to go to the police station. So, yeah, now I can kind of see where the detective is thinking this must be Jody that told him to come here. Because why would he be thinking legal ramifications?
that's okay. But you want to know specifics of the case, which we can't share right now because it's under investigation. So, yeah. So we would like to ask questions about where you found out, but we'll respect that if you don't want to share that information.
So the female detective kind of counters Kevin and says, hey, whatever, don't tell us who called you. And in that case, we can't give you any specific information about this as it's an ongoing investigation. We can't tell you what's going on with your kids.
But I am curious, when you guys had the previous 8 Passengers YouTube channel, you guys got a lot of heat for neglect and child abuse. A lot of people commented those things on there. why were they commenting those things?
Here, Kevin is discussing the 8 Passengers YouTube channel, and he gets into the specifics on the heat the family receives or has received as it relates to CA and neglect. He's talking about a time when his oldest child was acting out and being selfish and rude to his siblings. This is leading up to the bed scandal, if you've heard of that, in which Ruby had explained to her YouTube audience that she took her teenager son's bed away for something like 7 months as a punishment. And the poor kid was sleeping on like a beanbag chair. That's where I think this is headed, but let's see what old Kevin has to say.
That's a good question. We had a son who was acting out in very selfish behavior. And, none of this is strange or odd. You can get on YouTube and find out all sorts of stuff on this.
It's like a double-edged sword.
The question is, what do you believe, right? There was even an article written in Newsweek magazine in 2020 on it. Or Newsweek? No, Business Insight, where we were interviewed. And we were pretty straightforward, and we talked about it, and we shared our piece in that. Basically, it boils down to he was being very cruel and mean to his siblings that he shared a room with. And so we removed him from the room. And we said, you can sleep anywhere you want. Sleep on the couch, sleep on the pull-out bed, sleep on the floor for all we care, but you're not sleeping in that room with your brother. He chose to sleep on a beanbag. So 9 months later, he had made a lot of changes in his life. And he was ready to, and we had moved by that time. And so we had a new house, and he was ready to move into his own bedroom. Made a video about it. And in the video, he mentioned something to the effect of, I've been sleeping for 9 months on a beanbag. And that is what all the uproar was about.
9 months later, here I was saying 7 months. Oh my gosh, 9 months later, Kevin says he was ready for his own room. He's speaking for his teenage son. He was ready for his own room 9 months after sleeping on a beanbag chair, and he had made some behavioral changes. So now the kid is deserving of a bed to sleep in. How this guy, how do you allow this to go on, dude? Was he so severely brainwashed by Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt? Was he afraid of them? Where are his kahunas?
What did you guys do to help, like, with his behavioral issues? Is that something you and Rumi talked about together? Sure. And then did you helping you discover yourself and fix behavioral issues and things like that? Is that something you and Ruby sought out to help correct, like, some of the things?
Yes.
Okay.
And I supported it. And so together we held boundaries for ourselves to support his choosing honest and responsible choices. And when he chose honest and responsible choices consistently is when he began to get his privileges back. And that was
great journey.
That would be up the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And so, but yes, through 2000, contact with him because I'm honoring the most contact separation boundary. that I agree to with my wife, but I understand that he's 18, living on his own somewhere in Provo and working and supporting himself.
What other kids went down to visit Jody?
What other kids?
Yeah, did you send any of the other kids down to spend time with Jody?
We didn't sit down to spend time with Jody. They would meet on Zoom.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, we
It's
were
like
in spring
COVID stuff.
Well, even in 2018,
Yeah. So when did Ruby and Jody, to your knowledge, like decide to collaborate, come together and mesh life? Is that that's what's happened?
Well, they decided to start a business in 2021.
So while you and Ruby were together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but there were, at that period, it was pretty nebulous. I don't know.
What's that word mean?
It was just a lot of talk and like solid plans. It was, let's start by, doing podcasts together. And then that's all I know. I know that they published a book together recently. You can find it on Amazon. It's not a secret.
Was the business thriving? Like life was good between those two?
Well, not that I was aware.
Well, at some point, and again, I'm not digging into your life, but I'm trying to understand this. At some point,
We took,
they kick you out.
when you talk about a business, thriving in terms of business and money, when we stopped 8 passengers on YouTube, we lost 90% of our income. So you said that business was thriving. In my perspective, no.
Got it.
I don't think it ever was.
The male detective is inquiring about the business of Jody and Ruby, and he wants to know if their business was thriving. And Kevin says, not that I'm aware of. He says they lost 90% of their income when 8 passengers was canceled. 90%.
Was that part of your guys' reason for separation after you guys ended 8 passengers?
Was that part of the reason? The reasons are because of ways that I treated my wife, and it's of my own addictions that I was working through and seeking help on with pornography.
I'm back, guys. I had to do this over 2 days because I had to boogie the other day, and I tried to fool you. I put on the same shirt and I took my hair down and glasses, but I put a little makeup on and the lighting might be different. But I'm right where I left off. Great job detective. So the detective is commiserating with him, and the timing is perfect with the question of, okay, yeah, so was that the reason for the separation? Kevin says, nope. The reasons for the separation were the way Kevin, was treating his wife, Ruby, as well as his own addictions to pornography. Now, we've heard how Jody Hildebrandt views pornography. We can't even assume that he's telling the truth. I'm sure he thinks he's telling the truth, but Hildebrandt, who we know has had a huge influence on Ruby Franke, has abused children and adults before by projecting this addiction onto them. We heard that from her niece Jessie. So that's just something to keep in mind when Kevin is taking all this responsibility onto himself. It sounds a little Stockholmy to me.
Thank you for sharing that.
And I've made some wonderful progress.
Like, is that something you came to the realization that you needed help and weren't doing things right? Or is that something that, like, Joey helped you guys recognize that maybe Ruby needed more, or trying to understand her involvement in your guys' life? She's not focused, I'll just be honest.
I understand. I can perceive that. Jody and Ruby have a close relationship, and Jody saw the need for me to get help. And frankly, I agree. This space has been exactly what I needed to face, my own addictions and receive the support and help that I have needed. And so this space has been very, very good for me.
Kevin is admitting here that it was Jody who saw the need for Kevin to get help.
So when you stated that you and Ruby had this no contact that you guys just verbally agreed upon, was that an idea given by Jody that she recommended you guys have that space and not contact one another?
I'm not aware of that. The invitation for me to leave and take space was from my wife.
Again, he was invited to leave his own house. He was invited.
But that was while Jody and Ruby were friends and collaborating and doing podcasts, and sure. Well, you're the custodial parent at the end. I don't see why we can't explain to you why you were involved. So I don't recall the exact time, but sometime before 11 o'clock today, we received a phone call from 911 on our dispatch that a 12 to 13-year-old boy was knocking on doors in a neighborhood asking for food and water, that he was severely emaciated, that he had...
What is emaciated?
Skinny, scrawny, malnutrition, not enough food, not enough water to sustain life. So he had...
I'm sorry, what?
He had duct tape on his extremities, on his hands, on his ankles, and those were covering rope burns that were used to tie him down. Take a second and think about what I just said.
Okay, the detective is telling Kevin what has brought him here today. And he explains that they received a 911 call that a 12-year-old boy was knocking on doors asking for food and water. He was emaciated with duct tape on his limbs, and there was visual evidence that the boy had been tied down with rope. Of course, we know this is R.
That's the condition of your son. Given that information, your son was taken to the hospital. A warrant has been applied and granted by the Department of Child and Family Services to remove both from your wife's care. So no one right now is going to have access to these two children based on their physical condition. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Would you condone that behavior?
When I condone that behavior,
that's my job. My job is to find out your knowledge of the treatment of these
based on
precious
children. No, again, I don't know the details, or I don't know. But as you described that sounds
horrible, disgusting. No human being should be treated like that.
Yeah, okay.
That's my thoughts, but again, we might be different on that. We're going to sit here for a second. Okay, we're going to round top. I'm not saying you're still not free to go. Are you under arrest? Absolutely not. You just have lots of questions you need to figure out. Lots.
Okay, because
your children are under medical care right now.
And what is that?
And it means that you don't have access to them. My understanding is that they are, what is that?
They're in the custody of DCFS.
And they will be for the next 7
There's a medical hold on them right now. So for at least the next 72 hours, based on our understanding.
At least the next 7 days.
They're in observation.
They're-
They're being watched.
DCFS is going to provide you that information and they can better answer your questions along those lines. That's handled through them.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin is reacting. We might be seeing some mild signs of shock here. The detective is doing his best to hammer home this image of Kevin's young son in such a horrible state. The detective tells Kevin the physical condition of the children is so poor that child services intervening was non-negotiable, and neither he, Kevin, nor Ruby will be permitted to access the children. The children are on a medical hold for at least 72 hours.
Okay. So we'll be back.
So I want you to think about some things, though.
I don't.
I don't know. Listen to me. Listen to me. I want you to think about that for a minute. Don't have no idea where they're at.
Well, I don't either. But,
Okay, we're going to hop out here. We'll be back in a minute, okay? That's still recording audio and video, okay? So if you want to don't make any phone calls, sure.
And with that, we get a little break. A lot of times these intermittent walkouts by the detectives serves no purpose but to allow the person of interest time alone with their thoughts. And that's exactly what I think is happening here. They have just dropped an atomic bomb on Kevin Franke with the description of his son's injuries and the information that his kids will be turned over to the state. Kevin just sits there. We see some head and hands movements and a little sign of distraught, maybe a few signs of him being emotionally distraught. I just feel like the lack of questioning coming from Kevin at this time is really, really off. He doesn't ask a lot of questions at all. I would imagine a typical worried parent in this situation would be rapid firing off question after question. It's a little Chris Wattsy, if you ask me, you know what I mean? Is Kevin just that timid? He just takes what he's hit with? Or maybe it takes him longer to process. Or maybe he still doesn't even believe this is happening. He feels like he's in a dream state. But yes, his reactions are just very strange. And I know you can't judge. Everyone deals with grief and trauma differently. I am taking that into consideration.
when it happened, my wife. I love my wife.
I don't know. I'm being honest with you. I don't know. And anything to do with
I don't know from the start it was against my wife.
possible.
Ha! I just made that comment about Kevin not questioning the detectives, and we get back from break, and now Kevin has some questions. What's going to happen to my wife? I love my wife. Are they going to press charges against my wife? I trust my wife. The detective says, yeah, possibly. That's more than likely, given the situation, that she will be charged.
I don't know your wife. I was hoping to gain some insight from you, but I don't necessarily know that that's something you wanted to.
And here we finally see that emotion from Kevin. He begins to cry and break down a little, not over the kids who are physically and emotionally damaged for life. It's over Ruby.
I trust her.
A road you wanted to travel down with me, so.
And not without legal representation.
Yeah, alright, I get it.
And I love my wife, and I trust my wife. And so, I mean, this feels like getting run over by a steam truck when you're sharing with me today.
Yeah, I can tell you're caught off guard.
I thought I was just coming here to pick up the kids, or what, I don't know what, or why, but. And that's why I'm taking them back with me. And just...
I mean, I'd love to have a candid conversation with you. I just don't know how to stand your receipt away. I don't know you, but I can tell you my perception of how this happened.
Well, no. I'm interested in facts, but at the same time, I'm interested in all of that.
But you understand our facts. Our facts are that you have a child that is emaciated, malnutrition, and has marks. I didn't spend any time with her, Sergeant Toller did.
Have you spent time with her?
Yeah, he did spend.
I have not.
She was requested to go to the hospital along with, based on their condition.
Folks, I don't know what to do. Like, I want to... You realize that I have a picture of my family on my wall, and I look at it every day, and I work every day. I can back to my family, save my family, and everything you're sharing to me just sounds like a made-up story. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, it sounds like a horror movie.
Guys, I find this interesting. Really. So, Kevin is expressing how shocking all of this information is about the condition of his children and the possibility of his wife being in trouble with law enforcement. Kevin says, everything you're telling me sounds like a made-up story. He even comments, it sounds like a horror movie. Now you're there, Kevin. Now you're there.
Why do we have this? I don't know what's going on. I don't know why these things that you described happen. I don't know. It's almost like I want to say, I'm sorry, you must have somebody else. Because like, am I in the right conference room here? No. That's what I'm like. It's real, you know. I'm having a hard time accepting this and dealing with this. I mean, you're telling me that you're taking my kids from me. But we need to transfer the titles of the car to my name, you know, or we're going to cancel these credit cards and stuff like that. So it's just stuff related to the finances really is our only communications over the past year. Sure.
Oh my Lanta. Kevin is saying that all the conversations he's had with Ruby as of late have been around finances, mostly him providing her more financial support.
We had zero communications regarding the kids. Okay. I've had no reason to believe or think that there was anything going on. For all intents and purposes, I woke up this morning looking at the picture of my family and making my commitment today, as I do every day, that I'm going to live an honest, a virtuous, and a responsible life today. And what you're sharing with me just feels like a sucker punch.
Kevin just said there were 0 discussions around the kids. 0. I'm leaning into him being brainwashed, but there's a problem here with him not even being around for the children for a year. I don't know. I know you guys agree with that, but I'm like this detective. I'm just like flabbergasted. Did Kevin just take this separation in stride because He knew he would do whatever it took to get right in the eyes of Ruby and Jody so he could be invited back into his own home. And you know, time flies. All of a sudden, it's been a year. I wish the detectives would have asked him if he ever asked Ruby when he could come home or what more he needed to do, if he was ever taking the temperature of this separation and a deadline. Wouldn't you think he would have asked Ruby that over the span of 12 months? Like, okay, it's been 4 months. How much longer are you expecting this to last? Or what do you think I'm not doing? What's the finish line here? Or did Ruby Franke just keep shifting the goalpost? How do you know where the finish line is when the end keeps getting moved further and further away from you despite your progress?
Just imagine. Brianna, yeah. Questions? Okay. If I still have a family, yeah, and I got this. I don't know him. I the call. Sure. And I figured this out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I am just heartbroken for me. You all are sharing with me.
Kevin just said, I am heartbroken with all you're sharing with me.
And I feel responsible. It hurts. And I wish I was a better husband.
I feel responsible. I wish I was a better husband. I think the dog has been beat down so many times systematically over such a long period of time that all he can think about is what he's done wrong. Again, Ruby is Mecca. He cannot say an ill word about Ruby, and he's been trained to take this responsibility. I'm sure I'm sorry had to be part of his vocabulary on the daily, multiple times a day when he lived with Ruby Franke.
I know you're all doing your jobs. But I know you all have no best interest on my kids, don't I? Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That means a lot.
I just want my kids back. I want my family back. I want my wife back.
Kind of as I've been saying, I think Ruby is Kevin's God. I want my kids back. I want my family back. I want my wife back. That last want was the most emphatic we've heard in his voice in this interview. And, you know, I'd like to say it's a beautiful thing, and I understand coming from the standpoint of you love your spouse a little differently than you love your kids, because in the end, it's going to be you and your spouse, just like it was in the beginning. So I understand some relationships consider that, and they make it a point to hold their spouse in a bit of a higher regard than their children. And I can understand that.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't want us to sound rude, Kevin. We've got some things to do, but we're not picking you out. But the building's closed. Hey. You're gonna be okay driving home? I really am worried about you. Hey. Just do your best, Bree. got to pull over the side of the road. And
Let us not forget the victims in this case, the children. I always say this at the end of the video. This is not, making these videos is not about glorifying the predators like Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke, but memorializing and lending emotional, physical, financial support to those that these predators have preyed on. So let's remember them. I took a few ganders at her journal, Ruby Franke's journal that was recently released. It's really hard to get through. It really opened my eyes to how severe there's no question this was severe CA. Severe, not just emotional, physical, and constant, systematic. These poor children, I'm so thankful they're out of this situation. They have a lifetime of healing. So if you guys want to talk about any of this, the interview, what we know now, because we're learning new things every day, then go ahead and get the conversation flowing in the comments. And if there's an opportunity, I'll sometimes even follow up and feature some of your comments in another video, so you know that you got our wheels turning. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. It's super important to have your support in order for me to continue making content. If this was of any interest to you, do me that solid and smash that button. I love you guys. I'll see you soon.